Hey, everybody. Gonna ask for a show of hands. How many people out here work for a government? That's exactly the problem. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cyber Resilience Act and how it impacts our public officials around Europe. Again, I'm Daniel. I created the Tauri framework, work at CrabNebula, currently authoring 2 harmonized European standards for the CRA, and I've been doing this for a very long time. That QR code's my LinkedIn, but we all know each other already anyway. So just going to get started. Market surveillance authorities in Europe have a very important task, and that is to assess the viability of products on the market and their conformity with the expectations of the regulation. So we just had a talk about the software bill of materials, the SBOMs. So you're all somewhat familiar with the Cyber Resilience Act. Has anybody read it here? I know you have. Yeah, thank you. So what we know is in 2024, it entered force. In September this year, it will be in partial application. That's the whole reporting issue that we just heard about. And then in December of 2027, it will be in full application. And at that point, all products on the market have to conform. I mean, there's nuances here, but basically, what does conformity mean? Well, it sort of means different things the further north you go in Europe. So we've heard that in Finland, for example, even open source is getting more attention than it deserves. In fact, you might be fined for doing open source improperly. In Sweden, it's similar. The Germans, BSI is crazy. They're going to be the ones really moving the needle forward. And the further south you go in Europe, the more relaxed people are about compliance. It's maybe a Mediterranean thing, I don't know. But at any rate, the Cyber Resilience Act is a piece of harmonizing legislation that expects every European country, every sovereign nation, all 27 of them, have to have a market surveillance authority. Now, the most important date for having a market surveillance authority is obviously going to be in June. Because in June this year, June 11th, the market surveillance authorities will be the entities notifying conformity assessment bodies. What the notification process means is you have a conformity assessment body that does assessments that proves the compliance of a product according to these various modules you might have heard of, A, B, C, and H. And so when a cab is notified, it's gone through an entire process. And normally speaking, a cab can't be notified, well, a cab is notified for a piece of legislation and a product type. The problem is we don't have harmonized standards yet. We won't get them until December, but by December, all of the cabs are supposed to be notified, which kind of puts us in this weird position of we don't have the government entities ready yet across Europe. The cabs are kind of following along the best they can with the harmonized standards. And then, you know, the reality of this is yesterday there was a meeting from the commission talking about you want to be a cab? Okay, let's go. There's about 100 entities interested in becoming cabs. And the median number that they all agree to is 15 assessments. I'm not a good mathematician, but that doesn't seem like it's going to fulfill the expectation of 10% of the entire product market needing conformity assessment in Europe. It seems like it's a little shy. So the fantasy of the Cyber Resilience Act and the reality of how things are going makes some conclusions almost apparent. We're not ready. And the governments are behind. Like, let's just imagine it's April, and in June, oh gosh, it's almost May. That's reality again. In June, you have to have the entity set up that is ready to notify your conformity assessment bodies in your country. Okay, let's assume you get that done, but then in September, you're already going to have to start assessing products for their conformity based on this whole problem area of needing to report actively exploited vulnerabilities. So we're behind. The people that are going to be hired need to be hired. They need to be trained. Time is really running out. So the Article 35 is very specific about what a market surveillance authority is, and that that's where it starts to get complicated, right? Because if you have a product that's supposed to be surveilled by one entity in a country, what if that product is also composed of AI or telecommunications? So the challenge is that now you have multiple authorities within a country that are going to be conflicting, potentially. So who's responsible? That takes time to figure out who's responsible. There's not even any real shared infrastructure between them. And you know, like I've been saying, the first obligations start in September. So that's May, June, July, August. It's like 4 or 5 months away. And I don't work for the regulator. I'm not a government employee, but I do work in open source. And I feel that like we can provide a system, a way for the governments to get their act together. So, I mean, if just numbers again, like I said, I'm not a huge mathematician, but if there's thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of products on the market, I mean, just think about every app on the App Store, like the Apple Store, the Google Play Store, all of these stores have millions of products that all have to be compliant. How do you, as a market surveillance authority, even keep up? You're understaffed, you're underpaid, you probably want to go work for a private cybersecurity firm. All of this stuff is also specialist knowledge. I don't know like how much exposure you have to the local market surveillance authorities in your country, but you can't just start a conversation about S-bombs with anybody in the office. And so we're faced with a very important part of the Cyber Resilience Act, which isn't small businesses, it's not the products themselves, it's how we can support the governments and their duty, their task of protecting us from bad products, right? Like if we take the maximalist approach of understanding what the commission was actually trying to do with these laws, it's trying to protect people, right? So the governments that collaborated in the expert group for the Cyber Resilience Act created a number of product verticals that are what we call important and critical. And in order for you as a manufacturer to get your product on the market when it's important or critical, you have to use a conformity assessment body. There's not going to be enough in Europe. We don't know how that's going to work outside of Europe. It might be possible for you to use a local conformity assessment body in your country to get your product that's outside of Europe certified to work in Europe. But we don't know exactly how any of this is going to shake out. And basically what this means is products are going to be stalling. There's not enough cabs, and the general expertise that we need in order to assess these products is very small. Like I said, not everybody, even in this room, understands the scope of a software bill of materials, right? We were just talking about that, and I think that, you know, the problem gets worse. So in Annex 1, Part 1.2, parentheses A, products with digital elements are not allowed to be placed on the single market if they have known vulnerabilities. You may not place them there. If you know that there's a vulnerability in your product, you cannot put it on the market until that product's vulnerability is fixed. There's a whole bunch of evidence here about, you know, it's the duty of the manufacturer to do this. For example, today I installed Teams, and Teams downloaded, and the first thing it did was it checked for an update. Good practice, right? Making sure that you're up to date. The SBOM can sort of help you, but it can also be a problem because, like I said, getting the software bill of materials to someone's desk who can read it is a challenge. I think in Malta, where I work, there's a half dozen people at the Malta Digital Innovation Authority, who's probably going to be the one responsible, who are able to read the SBOM. But even then, the SBOM itself, unless you enrich it, doesn't tell you that much. Right? Yeah, okay, there's all these third-party components, but which one is the vulnerable one? You have to coordinate your knowledge somehow. And so I built a toy. I'm going to give you a demo today. It's called Achilles. And this is, and I'd love your feedback on it, because the idea is this is for an untrained professional working in a market surveillance authority who has the task of looking at the market and discovering if there are things that shouldn't be on the market, things that shouldn't be placed on the market because they have inherent vulnerabilities. So the idea is, like I said, you don't need a specialist. It uses the EUVD, which is the database that ENISA has been putting together. There's other ones available as well, like the GHSA from GitHub. It produces evidence that you can use and then hand off to others, and it's a non-commercial license, so it's totally available to the government to use. Like I said, we have GHSA. It's optional. I didn't turn it on by default because you have to use a stupid personal access token. But we do have the NVD, we do have the OSV, and the EUVD as these various sources, which to a non-technical specialist doesn't matter, as long as the person who does know says, yeah, okay, this looks right. This is what we wanted to do. So I'm going to change over to the other screen. Great. This is Achilles. It's scanning. I don't know if you can really even. It's very small, isn't it? I'm sorry about that. But basically, what we have are a number of apps that are installed on my device in the applications folder. And let's see, which one was I? Okay, let's look at Discord. Or I'll give you a good example. So Chromium, Google Chrome, it looks pretty safe because it's a very late version. Like it's from, I think, yesterday or the day before. So there's no known vulnerabilities. We're safe. We have a product that's been delivered to us in a safe state. However, if we go look at Discord, we are way behind. We are behind on Node.js, we're behind on Electron, and on Chromium. So, like, I just updated Discord. Discord is delivered to me in a known vulnerable state. So I'm just scrolling forever for vulnerabilities that are fixed everywhere, right? Like, it can't do this for every type of software out there. And again, like I said, this is just kind of a toy to explore the idea of showing, what we can accomplish. And there's enough information here that this would get flagged. So Discord would now be flagged by whichever market surveillance authority feels they want to take it on. And until they update their Electron and their Chromium and their Node.js, they can't be on the European market. I'm just explaining how this has to work. I don't know if it's going to be this tool that I've built here, but they're deploying a vulnerable product to the market. And I mean, it's Electron, so we kind of know that already. We're just ignoring it. Is there a good Electron? Signal. Signal's been on Electron since version 2. There's no advisories from CVEs. The sandbox isn't safe. Oh, there are a few. So there's an HTTP transport vulnerability in Node.js, the version of Node.js that Signal is using. Sorry, Moxie. I'm not here to try to pick on Electron, because if we look at Safari, there's also a number of vulnerabilities that have not been treated in the latest version of Safari, even though I just updated this Mac over the weekend. So I'm about as up to date as I can be, and there's already CVEs that have not been addressed in this version of Safari, which then trickles down into all of the web views that use Safari, probably on iOS and on Mac. So I don't need to be an expert in cybersecurity to know that we have vulnerabilities here, and now what would probably happen is we would export these vulnerabilities and we would contact the manufacturer and say, hey, here are a list of vulnerabilities. Please prove to us that your code is not vulnerable to any of these potential vulnerabilities. You have 48 hours or something draconian. It could even be a week. But like the thing that I'm trying to tell my friends who are building software is the fine isn't the problem. Yeah, you might get fined 3% or 10% or whatever of your global business, but not being able to be on the market, just imagine if no one in Europe could use Discord right now. The Israelis would be sad. And that's the power that the Market Surveillance Authority really has. Like, yes, they can line you up for a fine, but just saying, no, you cannot ship to Europe, suddenly the app stores, Apple, Google, all those app stores have to remove or at least block until they get permission to show it again. This is kind of anyway, I'm just trying to help my friends in market surveillance because they don't know how to communicate this stuff. That was the demo. It's on GitHub. It is source available, like I said. And here, I'll go back there for you. Like the challenge of the low-level officer working in market surveillance today is that they're being put in a position that they were not trained for to understand things that they don't comprehend, and then they have to make actionable decisions on it that can literally impact and undermine entire businesses. So, sorry. Inside of the Cyber Resilience Act, there is a clause that explicitly permits market surveillance authorities to go shopping. They are allowed to pull any kind of product from any kind of manufacturer at any point under the cloak of being a normal consumer. They don't have to go to Discord and be like, hey, we're Europe, we want to download your app. They just download it as if they were a natural consumer. And so the devices, like I said, right now this is just Mac, it's just a toy, but if they do evolve this product, they will then be able to just run this automated vulnerability triage. There's no AI involved in here because we're relying on public sources of known vulnerabilities. And then if there's enough evidence that, this looks like there could be problems, then they ask for more evidence. They say, hey, show us how this vulnerability assessment is wrong. And you have to respond as a manufacturer. And they can also say, hey, Apple, what's up with Safari? Once they've compared with the SBOM, that the versions are actually the ones that they think are being used, then they would trigger a specialist review. So basically the idea is this can all happen by low-level officers who then hand off to someone who's more able to assess the information. And sometimes the specialist review might even be a conformity assessment body. Remember that problem at the beginning that we don't have enough qualified personnel to review the actual problems? This does trickle out to a very intense watershed situation. And then enforcement, right? Like the worst thing you can do is not pick up the phone, right? If they can't reach you, they will shut your product down. And I think that especially in light of the horrors of the product liability directive, there might also be cross-border support. So what that means is that investigations in multiple jurisdictions that might not just be about software, it might be about hardware too. And like I said, the further north you go, the colder and harder the steel, obviously. So what do we have to do? Like, I don't know if the MSAs are going to be watching this remotely or considering it. The member states have to choose somebody, some entity, or create an entity to do it. It's so important because the industry is saying we need standards, but I'm telling we need market surveillance. Otherwise, the whole Cyber Resilience Act doesn't work. Then the feedback round with the European Cybersecurity Competence Center, the ECCC, the NCCs, they should be giving their feedback about what kind of information is useful to collect at the low level that they can then see as enriching. The national accreditation bodies have to move faster. The risk is that we don't have conformity assessment bodies to the quantity we need them, and then what do we do? Excuse me. We have to let everything just go through. It's like why are we even doing the exercise in the first place, right? So everything in the CRA is going faster. Normally writing standards is a 3-year process. That's been condensed down to 1 year. Creating a CAB is something that's about 12 to 18 months. Now that's being shorted down to 6 months, even in the context of not having the standards to build upon. And then, like the scariest part for me is everyone who's building components, because the component manufacturers are the ones who are upstream. They're selling their product downstream, and downstream needs the due diligence done on those components in order to have a fully certified product. The timing is tricky, and there should be some unity around a common tooling, and that's something for my friends at the Commission at DG Grow, because this approach just isn't going to be sustainable. So I kind of went fast because I thought maybe there might be some questions that the audience has. I'm happy to answer any that you might have. Thanks.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I arrived in the middle of it, so maybe I've missed it. But did you receive any feedback from anyone regarding this project? Or did you present it to any potential MSAs or did you grow or people like this?
Today was the very first presentation of it.
Okay.
And I've been in discussion with Malta about their decision to finally choose the MDIA. And that's, I think, the next step, right?
Yeah, I would have been interested to know if you had any feedback or any appreciation on how they are planning to do, because I don't know how organized member states are on this, and they're probably not at all. Right. So I don't know which platform could be the right interlocutor for you, or if you know.
I mean, I'm going to Stockholm tomorrow, and I plan on talking to the ECCC. I think that's a good coordination point, probably better than ANISA at this point in time. For reasons.
All right. Well, thank you for the answer.
All right. Great.
Thanks for the talk.
Thank you.